Hi friends, I'm here to do a little tutorial on how I make my Julie Nutting dolls. I've made a video like this before, but it's been several years ago, so I thought I would do it again while I'm prepping for my 2025 swaps in our Facebook group, Julie Nutting Addicts. We would love to have you swap if you're a doll lover. So anyway, let's go through this. I have a few products here that I use nearly every time that I make dolls. I've used Copics markers in the past to color dolls. Here you can see I've done a whole bunch of stamps of Natalie. I'm Natalie, so I feel like this was appropriate to use Natalie. So on these dolls, I used the Sharpie collection, which is a skin tone set. I believe it has enough colors to do all your skin tones and your hair colors. So that's what I did for those. So that's how I colored all of these. And they're all different with all different hair colors and skin tones. Okay, but I thought I would also show you how I stamp my dolls to get the whole thing going. So I use this Tim Holtz, I don't know, stamp pad, if that's what you call it. I cleaned the base of it for the first time ever to do this video. It's usually covered in ink. But anyway, so I had her out. I think this is Jacqueline. I was using her for another project I was working on, so I thought I would just leave her on there. Now, this is how this works. This flips over, so you stick your stamp here. Now she has lost her stickiness, so I've put a piece of double-sided tape there so that she will stay put. And over here it has like a magnetic backing, and then these little magnets to hold your paper in place. Because sometimes you stamp your dolls and you miss a section or something, like it doesn't press down all the way. I'm sorry about the glare of that light. I'm just trying to give us some good lighting in here. Anyway, it doesn't always press down all the way, so this gives you the ability to keep everything stabilized so you can press it again if you need to. So I've got my cardstock layered up. I'm just using solid so you can see. So when I'm stamping my doll, I want to start with her clothing. I just want to cover the part of her clothing with ink. And I use this Recollections ink pad. I think I got it at Michael's. And then I'm just going to push her over. Now, I found someone suggested using a hockey, air hockey, I don't know what you call this. It's not the puck. It's your hitter. What is this called? Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. So, and it works really well. So it's got this Velcro thing and it slides around. So that way you can push down and keep everything flat so your stamp stays level. Some of these older stamps, you're going to hear some noise in the background because my whole family's home. Some of your older stamps tend to curl up, and that kind of helps keep them down. So there I have stamped her dress, and that came out great, so I can move on. Now I'm going to stamp my entire doll from head to toe because I want her whole body now. Same thing. Use my little air hockey handle guy here. Let's see how she turned out. Okay, and again, she stamped out right. Now, let's say her shoes didn't stamp quite right. You could re-ink your stamp and do it all over again, and she's going to stay in that same place because you're using those magnets to hold your paper still. So that is the first step, and then from there I would go on to color my doll's skin and hair. Now, I've already done that with Natalie. So I'm going to use this one on the end. So this is where I just take my big scissors and I'm going to cut her out since I'm going to use her. Now, when you're cutting your doll out, when you're cutting the whole doll, there's only parts of her that you have to be very careful about because you're going to layer her clothing, okay? So the parts you want to be careful about are the skin. Like, I'm going to just color in her shoes because when they have heels like this, the paper tends to get too thin on that heel part. It gets too small and it's hard to cut. So when I'm going to cut Natalie out, I'm going to go outside, just on the outside of the line of her skin and her shoes. Now when I get to her clothes, I can go within the line because I want the parts that I layer to cover, and I'll show you what I mean. So for now I'm going to use my big scissors because I'm not cutting any details yet. So see how I am staying, hope you can see with the shadow, on the outside of that stamped line to cut her. I'm going to go slow because I'm trying to keep it in frame and see what I'm doing. So see how I've cut? You can still see the stamped edge of her leg from where I've cut. Same there. Now when I get up to her clothing, it doesn't matter if I cut these off. See how I did that? I trimmed inside that line because I'm going to layer her clothing over this, and you don't want your white part of your background of your doll to stick out from under the clothing. Now if you're going to color the doll completely and not use like stamped papers for her clothing, then you would just stick on the outside of all of it. Okay, so there again, I've stuck outside of her sleeve, but or her arm, I'm sorry, but once I get to the sleeve, I'm just going to cut inside. Same way, I don't have to be careful. So when I get up to these detailed parts, like around her hair, I just like to trim all the excess paper that I can off with my big scissors. And I'll go back in there and there. Again, I don't have to be careful with the outfit because I'm going to layer that up. So see how skinny I just made her with just cutting that outfit off? Because you're not going to need any of that. You're going to cover that up with more paper. Now I want her to stay intact. So like I want all of her pieces to stay together. I don't want to cut those out completely. But I just want to give it enough of a backing for the outfit papers to stick to. Okay, so I'm getting close to this little high heel down here, and that gets detailed too. So I'm done with my larger scissors. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside, and that's where I want to pick up some little detailed scissors. I think I got these like a 2-pack off Amazon. I've used different types. These are probably my favorite, and they were cheap. So anyway, so this is where they come in handy with this detailed stuff. Again, you want to stay, because I'm not going to re-stamp her shoes. I want to stay on the outside of that stamped line and cut in there around that high heel. So I can just go back in and color it to match her outfit. Okay, you also have this negative space that's behind your doll. And if you're putting this doll on a project, you don't want there to be white space on your green backing, okay? You want the green backing to show through, right? So what you're going to do is just poke a hole in that backing, cut a little slit, and that gives you a little room to cut out that negative space in the background. Some people leave that, but I don't like to leave it on my projects. So that's what I do. I just cut a little slit into the backing, and then that allows me to get my scissors in there because they're sharp pointed, and I can get that out, and then she looks like that. So then you have your green backing. See where it's white here but green here? Okay. Now here's a trick to get in these armholes. You don't have to poke the hole like I just did there down here, because you can cut into her outfit, into her waistline, up to the armpit, and down. Now you can use the poke the hole treatment, but this is easier. Giving you all my tips and tricks. And again, we only have to be careful around her skin, her actual body parts, and not her outfit. So same thing over here. You can cut through her arm, but I kind of want to leave that stability because it's not very wide. Or you can cut through her hip. I know, just apologize to her. Say, I'm sorry. It's going to hurt a little. You just cut into her. Okay, so I've trimmed out all the negative space, and that leaves me with that. So now I just need to go in and cut the details around her hair, which is always tricky. There are some dolls that I just don't reach for very often because they're so much harder to fussy cut. Like some of the larger dolls are so easy to fussy cut, but these small ones, their pieces get so dainty. Like on Jacqueline, the other one I just stamped and showed you, I hardly ever use her because she's so tiny, and cutting all those details out is really hard. Trying to keep going. Almost finished cutting her out. I went ahead and stamped her outfits on coordinating pieces of her outfits on coordinating papers too, so that would be ahead of the game. But you saw how I did that with the Jacqueline stamp when I stamped the yellow paper. to make her outfit. I did the same thing. I started with the smallest part, like this little bow belt thing she has around her waist. I did that part first, then moved on, you know, to bigger area. Okay, so she's all cut out, and see, you can see where I cut very closely to the line on her skin, and then in her outfit, I was not careful at all, and this is why. Because now we're going to come in with our pattern papers. See, I have this stamped, so on this one, I plan to use this polka dot as her sash around her waist. I don't know if you can see that very well. A tip for using, if you're using a black paper, you don't want to use a black ink because it's hard to see. You could use a white ink on your black paper. It'll show up much better. That's what I should have done here to show you guys, because you cannot hardly see that at all. And then I'm going to use the orange as her jacket. So the flower is going to be her dress. So what I want to start with is the base layer, and the base layer on Natalie is her dress. So I'm just going to fussy cut that out. Thank goodness I can see it. I'm sorry you guys can't on this pattern. Okay, again, I don't have to cut out her whole jacket, okay? I wish you could see that better. See, there's the collar of her dress. I just kind of cut up into that, up above it, kind of like giving her almost like a tank sleeve on this dress, because that jacket layer is going to cover it. So that doesn't have to be perfect. You can just cut into that jacket layer and then cut back down. You want to get the whole dress, but you don't have to worry about the jacket. I can't see here either. Oh, see, and now I don't have to cut that whole sash either. See, our sash comes over on this side. I'm just trying to get that dress, and thank goodness I took a thin Sharpie and went down the edge of this dress, or I wouldn't be able to see it to cut it out for you guys. Okay, this is getting in my way, so I just want to cut this extra paper off. And back to the dress. So this is that kind of under layer. It looks like she has kind of a wrap dress on. And you could take this a step further in layering, give it more dimension by taking this little piece here. I'll show it on the orange paper. Taking this little piece here, you could make this a whole other layer. So put that on and then put this over it to give it a little dimension. I don't go that far. Okay, so there's her dress. Let me grab my glue. I like to use Bearly Art glue. There's usually a smaller, like needle type nose on my glue bottle, but the other day I was pulling my pin out and my tip went with it. So I'm gonna have to order a new top for my glue bottle. Okay, so I'm just gonna glue her dress on. Just want to line it up so that the neckline of my pattern paper matches up with the neckline on my doll. Okay, next step, you can either do the jacket or the little sash. I'm going to do the sash. Again, when you're cutting the outfit pieces, you want to cut outside your stamped line. Am I doing this on camera? No. That's what's hard about making videos. I don't think to make videos very often when I'm actually creating. I'm very good. No, I shouldn't say very good. I'm better at doing project shares, usually on incoming. I also forget to record what I have made for my swap partners. But the actual creative process, I hardly ever film. And most of the time, it's honestly because I have the TV or a book, an audio book playing for sound in the background. That's my entertainment while I do this. So I honestly don't think to record while I create. I set aside this project on purpose the other night. Okay, now, instead of putting glue on the back of this, because this is a bigger piece than what I have to glue it to, remember I trimmed all that off, I'm going to look at her and I'm going to stick glue in that sash that's still stamped on the dress. And you can put, see where I cut through her hand? Put a little dot of glue there too, to glue her back together. Then her sash, line it up. See, now her hand is back attached to her. You don't have to apologize any longer. She's put back together. Okay, so there's her sash. Now we're going to do her jacket. So the jacket's going to be in 2 pieces, see? Because you don't see the backing of the jacket. I feel like she's a relatively easy one to paper piece. Some of them are more difficult. This is just one I had out the other night. I've stamped 52 dolls the other night and colored them. And then I turned around and did, what, 6 of her? Yeah, 6 of her. Because we do a weekly, in that Facebook group I mentioned earlier, we do a weekly doll swap, project swap. So I'm getting those prepped. So now all I have to do is go back and stamp her their clothes, and they're already colored. It speeds up my process later. I like to have that step out of the way. And now I have all those dolls at least stamped and colored for my weekly swaps in 2025. Okay, again, we're going to put the glue on her because I don't have everything proportioned right to put it on here and have it stick. You're just going to layer that on. Now we'll do the other side of the jacket. And see, I can save all of this and use it for another doll, okay? So let me go ahead and cut that off. So here she could have, I could use this part as a skirt, and she could have a separate top under the jacket, and this be a skirt, or I could just use the scarf sash, or I could keep this all as one piece and then put different top on. So it's fun. That's why these dolls are so fun. You can make them different every single time. When I first saw these, I was seeing people's creations on Pinterest, and I'm talking, this was probably 8 years ago. I thought, where are all these faceless dolls coming from? They are so stinking cute. And then I was also like, how are they doing these pattern clothing on these dolls? And then I finally figured out, oh, they're stamps. And then I figured out how to do them, and I have been addicted ever since. We love playing with dolls. I always loved playing with dolls. Barbie dolls, baby dolls, paper dolls when I was a kid. So this just lets me channel into that and my creative outlet, right? So there we go. Natalie is now dressed. Get that lined up. There we go. She's ready. I'm going to color her shoes. I think I'm going to do them in orange. If I have an orange. Here we go. I'm just going to use one of these pins I have because her shoes are small and my Copics markers are across the room and the rest of my Sharpies are in a closet. I just keep the skin tones and hair tones on my desk for easy access. And you can go back in with other colors. Those are a little bright. I may have to tone those down with a different orange. But you can go back in and add highlights and with a white pen, with like in her hair. And you can add shadows with skin tones, and also like on the shoes and the clothing and stuff. But there's your basic doll. And I think she turned out super cute. And she's ready to go on a project. And now you guys know how I cut out my paper dolls and layer them. Hope that helps you.